Thanks for coming down. Big round of applause, please, for Alan McGee.
Hey.
So, Alan, I've interviewed a lot of times, but I never asked you what rock and roll is. And I kind of want to know, how would you define rock and roll?
Music, really, to be honest. You know what I mean? Because I think the idea is it's sort of outdated. The idea that rock and roll's Johnny Thunders or something like that. So I would just say, you know, our first album that's fucking great, you know, is pretty rock and roll. But then I suppose we now live in an age that people like me exist, that are like old guys and are still doing music. So maybe that's rock and roll, I don't know, you know what I mean? But when I was younger, John, and I'm the same age as you, it's his birthday today. And...
I'm going to milk it, yeah.
Yeah, it's third time out today. But what was I going to say is, I think we were growing up, the Stones were about 45, and we thought they were old.
Mm. They were old when they were 27. It's
and the culture's changed now, that you can be in music and be old and still kind of be involved in good stuff. Do you know what I mean? You know.
But when you say it's music, I mean, there's a bit more to it than that as well. I mean, when you were signing bands at Creation, what they looked like was important as well. You know, the Mary Chain looked amazing. Oasis. As soon as you saw them that first night in Glasgow, before they'd even played a note, I'm sure you just thought the attitude, the feel, the vibe, the hair, the clothes, the whole thing was just like totally right, wasn't it?
No,
or was it totally wrong?
No, I am a third vegetarian.
but because Creation was when it started, a very stylised label, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it became a lot of different things. When it started out, it was a 7-inch record label. And I don't think I thought it was going to do anything, if I was being honest. I thought a year and a half later, we'll get found out, we'll go bankrupt. I'll owe Jeff Travis 20 grand or something like that. We're fucked. Really, I thought that was going to be the deal. And then I put out that first Mary Chain single, and in that first month, I sold 50,000 records. And that, by default, I was in the music business after that. Because like the record, I think that record ended up in the top 75. And like we were clueless. We were 23. Me and you know, Dick and Joe, we were like young guys. And we didn't really know what we were doing. Do you know what I mean? And then it went on as a 7-inch, 12-inch label. Till about 88, really. And then we started putting out big records, only because we'd put the singles out, but we put out House of Love, that was a big one for us, and My Bloody Valentine, first album, well, there isn't anything album, I think it was a second album, first on my label. But we put out a lot of these kind of records at that point, and we picked up steam. Do you know what I mean? The Valentines went silver, the House of Love went gold, and then we kind of like, suddenly we were, because it was like a 3-man operation. It was like, by that point, Joe had went up to Scotland. You know, he went mad, basically. Like, you remember that part? Yep. and then it was me, Dick and Ed, and we were putting out these records. So to have a band selling 100,000 albums, and you were getting back for about £4 a copy or something like that, it kind of worked. Do you know what I mean, you know? So
one thing that always struck me about Creation, it was totally driven on instinct and enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the first time I met you, we used to laugh because you were so enthusiastic.
Yeah.
It made everybody feel like 10 foot taller. And that was like a real skill that you had.
Right.
And we talk about pre-Creation here, talk about when you used to put the gigs on in London at the living room.
The living room.
And everyone hated playing in London, but everyone loved playing your little club.
Yeah.
And you put quite underground kind of bands on that time, wouldn't you?
Well, there was you, the Membranes.
Nightingales.
There was three Johns, there was the Nightingales, there's the Mekons. But yeah, to be honest as well, we knew what we were doing. Well, I knew what I was doing, if you know what I'm saying. It was like just me and Dick, but I knew that it was such a shit experience to play at the Rock Garden. Because they used to, no, it just was. I mean, is it still alive, the Rock Garden? Is it still going?
No, I don't think people play there anymore. I think there's probably some swanky. It probably became what it should have been, like a twat's bar.
I remember when the Mary Chain started breaking. This is absolutely true, and I think we got paid something like £6.43 because we'd actually sold 5 tickets at the Rock Garden. Do you know what I mean? It was like, they come from Glasgow to play the gig.
Which is what it was famous for. That circuit in London gigs where nobody used to go, and people had that dream they would get signed, they went to, but they came to play your club.
Yeah, well,
and there was about 100 people in there selling fanzines. You built a scene, didn't you, basically?
I think there was probably a bit more than that. It was probably 150, 200 people, but it was in a room not even as big as this room. It was about, how big was it, John? About a third the size of this room.
I think it's just the size of the seats, and that was it. That was it. And it was hot. And
he's actually not lying, you know, and because we gave it, even though it was absolutely totally small, we gave everybody the idea that it was a real happening thing, and I think all the bands like yourself loved playing it because it was kind of what the punk thing had been 6 or 7 years earlier, because it was like little crowded rooms, and it was like, you know, people going crazy. It really worked, you know.
Were you trying to create a little scene? I mean, was it just, you weren't just putting bands on every Friday night? Were you trying to create an aesthetic, a scene, an idea, you know?
I was, but I don't really think it was that conscious, if you know what I'm saying. But deep down, I agree. I think I was trying to do that. But I don't think I really quite knew what I was trying to... Because I think if it had been down to me, if they'd been walking about in paisley shorts. Do you know what I mean? Because I was obsessed with Dan Tracy and the TV personalities.
Who were the key bands here,
and they were all looking like him. Do you know what I mean? You know, like, there were all these guys walking about with... He used to have a Mohican. And it was like Mohicans and leather jackets. Do you know what I mean? So it really was... I was wanting it to be paisley, and it ended up looking like a punk club, you know?
Well, I had a paisley shirt as well.
You did,
a bricolage, yeah.
John, I should say that this is a true story. John... I signed John, and we put out one of his records, and I went to see him in Reading, and John was decked out in leather trousers, big boots, paisley shirt, and just as before, like, when at the peak of the set, he kicks the fucking PA.
I could do it now.
And it nearly kills me.
Look at this, could have all never have happened.
It was going like that, and I was like, fuck, I'm going to die, and it didn't go over.
I missed.
It was a scary one.
But from knowing you in that period and before the pre-creation period, even though you probably didn't think you were trying to create an aesthetic, I thought you were. I thought, and this is
I don't think I was consciously trying to do it, but I was deep down. Yeah, I was.
But I think this is quite key to the whole thing, really, because what I've always fascinated me about what you were doing, you were getting the best of the 60s and the best of the 70s. It was kind of that paisley, psychedelic underground, even the Beatles to a certain extent, and the Pistols. And those two things seem to be the parameters of what you were trying to do, trying to create. Maybe subconsciously, but I could see that right from the beginning.
Well, that's what we were definitely trying to do with the label. But the label really came out of the club, to be absolutely honest, because, you know, we'd actually... I was 22 actually, and I'd found a way to make money out of music, because we did make... For kids, we were making good money, because we had the Friday and the Saturday, and we were ramming people in. And look, we financed all the records out of doing that club. You know, if we made £500-600 in a weekend, we could put out a 7-inch single. Do you know what I mean?
At that time, this is like the indie scene, of course, exists then. This is pre the big labels, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So creation's kind of feeling its way into a space that doesn't really exist, does it?
We were just putting records out at that point. It's like we put out my record, which was Biff Bang Pow. We put Andrew's record out, which was the Revolving Paint Dream. We put Stephen's record out, which is the Pastels. We put out Adam Sanderson's record, which was Jasmine Minks. So I really was putting out my friends' records. And then the club introduced me to people like Pete Astor, the X-Men. I can't remember who else we used to put out. But it was like all early stuff. It was all people that had come through the club. Do you know what I mean, you know?
And it's interesting you saying it's your friends' records.
And that was the first 4 or 5.
Because the long-term
we put out
friendships...
Jerry's record, The Legend, and we put out... He was one of my best friends at the time, and... We put out the record. I mean, it wasn't a good record. But, you know, it was a real wake-up call, that record, because I delusionally thought it was fucking great. And we got slaughtered in the media. And I realised, fuck, we've got to up our game here. We've actually got to put out good records. So we had 6 months off, and then we put out the first 4 singles, which is Pastels, Jasmine's, Revolving Paint Dream, Biff Bang Pow. And they were all pretty good records. And we got, by that point, we changed it a little bit into... People kind of said they're good records, but they're a bunch of retro bastards. Do you know what I mean? You know, which is what they did.
But that actually wasn't true, because they did have that extra sheen of that period, that extra gone through punk 60s, gone through punk rock thing again. Each record, in a sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was like it all evolved. I think it only became really believable to... The media was huge back in the day in the 80s, and now if the enemy likes you or hates you, I don't think anybody cares. Do you know what I mean? I don't think... No, I mean, I think you guys there are like, do you actually care if the enemy likes you or hates you? Does it mean anything? I don't think it means anything.
Yeah.
But back in the day, the enemy was kingmaker. And the enemy, by the time we got to Mary Chain and put Upside Down out, and then we put out the Loft, Up the Hill, Down the Slope, it was becoming important. Do you know what I mean?
But I mean, also it helps that the Mary Chain was a absolutely fantastic.
Oh, it was a
record,
brilliant
wasn't it?
record, yeah.
Timeless
yeah.
record.
And I
isn't
think
it?
the Loft record was a good record as well.
Oh, yeah, great record as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
But I just want to backtrack slightly, because one of the keys to what you do is these long-term relationships, these long-term friendships.
Yeah, yeah.
Your friendship with Bobby Gillespie,
Yeah, yeah.
is another core principle to the whole operation, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, I mean...
And you first met him when
I was
14?
12.
12, yeah.
And he was 11. I think he's the person I've known longest in my life outside my relationship to my sister, So I've known him a long time.
Did you meet him on a train, was it? Or?
No, I mean, he was in Springburn and he came to my school, and I'd moved up from Govan Hill to Mount Florida, and Bobby moved to Mount Florida. And but when I first knew Bob, it wasn't... We weren't not getting on or anything like that, but he was more like a football kid, and I was a geeky record collector. But we both collided with punk, because all the other people that were football kids weren't into punk, and all the geeky record people weren't into punk. So we ended up going to all the concerts together because there was nobody else to go with, And then we ended up becoming pals.
So the first gig you went together was Thin Lizzy, I think.
But that was, he was about 14 and I was 15, and he said, "Will you take me to this gig?" And I was kind of like, one time, why would you ask me? Because I was allowed by my mum and dad to, just do anything I wanted, really, to be honest. And so I was going to gigs since I'd been about 12. I was going to rock and roll gigs. I used to get excited when people would come and put the amps on. Do you know what I mean? And I'd be like, "Fucking, it's amazing rock and roll." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that was how exciting it was. I suppose it says a lot about how boring everybody's life was in Glasgow in the 70s, that you get excited by somebody, the roadies coming on and putting the amps on.
It's still exciting though, isn't it?
I don't know about the roadies coming on. I'm not sure about
well,
that.
the roadies do it.
Yeah.
So punk rock, would you say, was that what quite literally amplified everything? It was.
The more I get older, the more I start to think now that I loved punk, and if punk hadn't happened, I don't think Creation couldn't have happened, Factory couldn't have happened, Mute couldn't have happened, Rough Trade couldn't have happened. None of these labels that meant a lot could have ever have happened. But for me personally, I think that when I heard Bowling in 71, I was 10, and 5 minutes later, I was a kid standing in the front. I was like this fucking oiky little fucking weird kid with mad curly hair in front of a fucking mirror with a tennis racket, literally, singing fucking Hot Love. Do you know what I mean? It was like everybody else, like probably you, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Bowling was the god in the 70s.
Yeah, and that was rock and roll. And like when you were like, that innocent and that age, you know what I mean?
So the thing about punk was it gave you a chance to actually do it. That was a lot of people said the empowerment of punk.
I never thought that when I was a kid and I loved music and everything, but you used to hear Eric Clapton and things like that, and he would be able to do all that stuff. And you just thought, I'm never going to be able to play like that. But then punk happened, and it was Steve Jones, and it was Submission, and it was 3 chords, and it was like literally if you tuned the guitar right, you could do that. And I was like, fuck, I can do that. Badly, but I can do it. And then we all formed punk bands. And then out of the punk bands, I'm still friends with the guy, actually. It's Ian for H2O, and he ended up having a hit, actually. I was his bass player, and Innes was his guitar player. But me and Innes left and went to London, and Ian went on and ended up on Top of the Pops. But I'm still friends with Ian. And so it was a whole generation of people that believed it could happen.
So what point did you decide to move to London? Was this a conscious move to try and get into the so-called music business?
It was by Andrew. I didn't really... It wasn't in my mind to go to London. If anything, I would have probably wanted to stay in Glasgow and do it for Glasgow. But it was kind of Innes' band, because he was more talented, than me as a musician. And he said to me, you know, like, if you don't come, McGee, you're going to get thrown out the band. So I had to go. You know what I mean? Which was kind of a bit fucking... It was fucked up because I'd waited my whole life, 19 years, to actually get a girlfriend. I finally got a girlfriend. I was like, this is great. You know, I'm in a band, I've got a girlfriend. It doesn't get any better than this. And then I've got to leave the girlfriend in Glasgow. So that's
wow, it's quite a stark choice.
Yeah, that was Andrew.
Yeah. Was he quite dictatorial?
Andrew's quite... And even, I'm sure Bobby must have his ups and downs. I'm sure they love each other. But Innes is quite a strong personality. You wouldn't think it when you meet him, but if you're doing anything with him, he's quite a little toughie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So when you went to London, did you have any idea what you're going to do? Like, you think you're just
we
going
wanted
to be in a band?
We wanted to be pop stars.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? We thought we were going to be big. We weren't.
No.
You know what I mean? We thought it. But how the label came out of that was that we did 3 independent singles under the name The Laughing Apple. And if somebody had went, if you learn this, McGee, you can start a record label, of course I would have done it. But I went and I recorded the records, produced them, I mastered the records. I went and found this distribution thing, pressing and distribution thing called Making, and then I cut a deal with Rough Trade for distribution. And then I suddenly went, fuck, I can do this shit as a label. It doesn't need to be my record.
So were you always the more practical, almost business-oriented?
No, I wasn't.
One,
that's the joke.
Just the determined one?
I tell you what it really was, John. It was like I became addicted to vinyl and putting out records. And because I was really... And then John Peel would always play our records 1 or 2 times, and I fucking loved that. I'm sure you did as well.
Oh, it's the greatest buzz in the 80s.
You think you're the king, man. I mean, not even the king. You think you're in the revolution or something like that. John Peel's playing your records. It's fucking great, man.
Yeah, and it'd be twice.
Oh, twice.
You have to go make another one.
And he usually played the B-side.
Yeah.
Don't play the A-side. Didn't really like our group. I just bullied him into playing it, really.
So in your heart of hearts, do you still feel like you're actually really a musician?
No.
You're quite happy to go to the other side?
I realised about 21, 22 that I was an average bass player. I mean, I kind of got up. I could get it to a blag level, because there's loads of people in bands that aren't amazing, but, you know, they can blag it. And, I think Primals were playing in Portugal and supporting the Butthole Surfers at Brixton, and I ended up playing the bass for them for 3 shows. And I was okay. I wasn't the best bass player they've ever had, you know, I wasn't Manny, but I was okay, you know what I mean? But I knew that I wasn't very good at it. Deep down, I was like, it's not for me. But then I started putting records out, and I realised I'm quite good at that. So you kind of tend to do what you're good at.
So when the Mary Chain thing took off, that you must have had to change the operation. Did it have to become more professional? Did it still maintain that sort of ramshackle?
It was ramshackle. They would probably have said that, you know, like, get it more professional. But it was ramshackle for about 5 years, really, to be honest.
So it was pretty well like The Office, the famous office in Hackney, which was like an epitome of ramshackle.
88.
Yeah.
It was seat of your pants stuff, really, to be honest. You know what I mean? Even though I had a lot of success up to 88, you know, I mean, we'd top 5 records for the Mary Chain and lots of stuff like that. And I had a label deal with Warner's. I did kind of okay. And then about 88, I thought, I had a really good chat with Tony Wilson about 86, 87. And he went, McGee, you've got to stop selling your bands to majors. And we started keeping them. We kept the Valentines. We kept Ride. We kept St Etienne. We kept the Primals. Mm-hmm. So we just started keeping them, you know what I mean, you know.
And that must have been pretty difficult. I mean, obviously the famous story is the Valentine's album. It was an expensive record to make, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but to absolutely honestly, I mean, the most expensive record that record label ever made was a Give Out But Don't Give Up, because they were out of control, I was out of control, the spending went through the roof. I mean, but it ended up doing about 1 million records or something like that around the world, so it paid for itself. But Loveless was cheaper, but it paid for itself, because both these records, most of the Primals records and the Valentine's records are all records that still, I think Kevin keeps reissuing them as on vinyl, and they all do okay.
Well, they're kind of classics in that genre, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, do you think the nature of the label, it worked, by the way?
Was that, sorry?
The only way this could actually work is people being completely off their heads, pretty ramshackle, everything on instinct, everything on the moment.
I think it was a time, and I don't think I'd be kind of sad if I was sitting here off my tits now at 57. Do you know what I mean? You'd be like, fucking, go to lie down. Do you know what I mean? But I think when I was like 29, 30 and I was mental, I was like, so are you. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, it's great, wasn't it?
So, so was half of this people in here that I know. Everybody's a bit bonkers.
I'm amazed half of them made it into this room.
Was that?
Years later.
Yeah. So
I'm amazed how few casualties there actually was in the end.
Well, I think we're all a little bit casualties.
Walking casualties.
Yeah, functional.
But Creation, more than any other labels at that kind of time, was the one that was right living on the edge. I mean, you could go to Factory, and Factory had... Factory was quite reasonably well organised. He had quite expensive, famously expensive furniture.
Well, Tony was amazing, but Tony was different from me anyway. I mean, it was maybe same attitude in loads of ways, but Tony was more like a university kind of lecturer running a record label. I was more like a bus driver running a record label. Do you know what I mean? And it's the truth. I just happened to get successful, and it was great. But it was like I never thought I was a university lecturer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, Tony had his theories.
Yeah.
And he understood how to somehow get things organised.
He's brilliant. He was the best. Out of that whole batch of people, Martin at Beggars, Jeff at Rough Trade, Daniel, Tony was the one that I had empathy and I thought was fucking great.
So would you have a lot of phone calls?
No, I mean, I would see loads of them, though, because I was up in Manchester. And I went up one night in January '89, and I'd obviously discovered the whole ecstasy acid house thing 6 months previous in Brighton, but I got to January and at the Hacienda. You might even have been there, but Sean was on stage that night with a gold lammy shirt by one of his mates, and they were punching the air, and I was just like, fucking hell, I'm moving. And I actually moved up, except for the 6 months. It was phenomenal, you know what I mean?
Which,
we were in some mad club, John. There's the Haas, and round there is some indie club that you go down the stairs.
Oh, the venue.
Don't know what it was called.
Yeah.
And me and James Williamson, do you remember James? And we were, they were playing Love Will Tear Us Apart and blah, blah. And it was like Manchester by fucking numbers. And I went, let's just go to the Hacienda, because I was just wanting to go and find out whatever was happening sort of vibe. And we went in, and the whole place was exploding, and that changed me.
Even without...
And it changed our label, because I fell in love with that whole thing, and then I just wanted to put these kind of records out. And we sort of had we had the whole Ride and, Valentines and Swerve Driver, that whole thing that we were doing. But equally, we were putting out loads of fucking acid house records as well. Like Love Corporation, Ed Ball, remixed by Danny Ramplin and Hypnotone. We're putting out really good stuff as well.
Pretty good records.
Yeah, they're great records. I don't think it's quite an unrecognised thing that we did, that we put out good acid house records. But I know they were good, because I used to hear them loads, especially in London. A lot of the London clubs loved that stuff that we were doing. Do you know what I mean?
Was it? I mean, acid house, obviously, the drugs are great, the party was great. But again, as somebody who's deeply versed in pop culture, did you feel the moment you thought, wow, you opened that door, went to Hacienda and thought, here's a revolution?
It was you felt part of something huge. Do you know what I mean? It was also every great revolution culture needs a great new drug, and that one fucking came along and blew us all away. Do you know what I mean? I mean, like, I suppose it was like acid in the 60s, ecstasy in the late 80s.
Speed and punk.
Yeah, it's like, fuck me, man. Do you know what I mean?
So you're putting out acid house records, but you come from a guitar background. So you're thinking, how do we make this work?
No, I wasn't really. I was just putting I was just
going, wow, we must have something.
There was a couple of people around me, like Grant Fleming was around me at the time, and Grant was putting, I just said, let's go and put some records out. And Ed was making records, and Tony Martin, the Hypnotone guy. So we were putting out good records, and Primal had, brought, the whole Andy Weatherall, Terry Farley thing into play with the Orb. So we were putting out good stuff, and we were just, I don't know, it was just, it was an amazing time to be, it was an amazing time to be in music.
You've been in Manchester a few times before you moved up there. But when you were seeing like the Mondays and the Rosies, obviously never made, made ostensibly acid house records, but they captured the feel of it.
Oh no, they were both amazing.
The balance between the two.
Both amazing. I mean, Roses.
I mean, I always say this, but that's the band, isn't it? That's the band. The only band you missed was the Roses,
but I
wasn't
never got anywhere near it because it was like Gareth, their old manager, never approached me with it, and I think
I told him to.
He approached Jeff Travis. Jeff Travis nearly got it. I'm told. I don't ask Jeff, but I think he nearly got it. But I was nowhere near that one, which was a kind of. The only thing I would say is that I love Stone Roses, and the fact we weren't anywhere near it was the only upside of it, other than like not being involved in it, was that I was actually allowed to be a genuine fan. Do you know what I mean?
Instead of worrying about.
So that was great. You know what I mean?
Because I always thought there could never be more of a Creation band. I mean, not for you to sign, but as a band, the sound of them and their look in the early days was total Creation,
but it was
wasn't
like, to be honest, I work with the Mondays now, but it's like, back in the day, I was going to see Happy Mondays at Jeff Barrett's club when he was the factory press officer, 87, and then the Mondays started getting big with Bummed. I fucking loved that record, and I was going up to Manchester and going and seeing them, started becoming friends with Paul Ryder, even before I met Sean, and then and that was my whole. I was pals with the Mondays before I was pals with the Roses, and then I eventually got to know Ian and Manny. Do you know what I mean?
So I guess we haven't got a lot of time left because it's quite a short slot, bizarrely.
No problem.
So Oasis, which is like, I guess that will go down in your history forever because it's one of the biggest bands of all time. And I always still think of them being very much a Creation band. I know they're huge and people forget where they all came from.
Well, what's wonderful now is that, if anything, they both get such big solo careers, and it's a bit like, it's pretty amazing that from me literally wandering in early by complete haphazard fluke, clocking them, getting them to work with us, and they're still doing, but they're both doing arenas. It's fantastic. We got it right. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, what was the moment you were in that club in Glasgow?
Yeah,
what was the thing that connected the instinct, the rush? That
they were really good, but I just thought, if I was being really honest, I just thought I can nick in with this record and get it out before the Stone Roses' second album, because it'd taken 5 years, and we did do that. We beat them by 3 months, and that was. And
it made the difference. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if I was being honest, we stole their audience.
Yeah, although the second coming did okay, didn't it? It's still a big record.
Okay, but it wasn't as good or as big as that first Oasis record. But the Stone Roses came good when they went and came back and ended up like fucking killing it in stadiums. So I'm so happy for them. But yeah, that's all I thought was. I never realised that they were such a great band. Do you know what I mean? Who did? They were great, but we never really knew. Do you know what I mean?
I think if you're in town, you kind of knew, but it was
I loved them.
time.
But we'd had other great bands that, Teenage Fan Club were a great band. It never really
they did well. They did well in America.
There was things that went wrong. We were in America. They sold about 200,000 in America with Bandwagon-esque. But at one point, I was with Gary Gersh. It was about January '92. I was in America, and the concept, the first song on the album, was on MTV, and it was doing 12,000 physical records a week. And Gary Gersh had just got big with Nirvana, so he was the biggest A&R guy in the world. Turned around and went, "Don't worry, I've got it sorted." And I went, "What?" He goes, "I'm taking it off MTV. I'm going to put on What You Do to Me." And he did it, and it never went on MTV. So there you go. So if he hadn't done that, they would have become a huge band in America, because they were just starting to go up, and they were doing like 12, still sold 200,000 off the back of that getting on MTV, but it was just starting to go. So it's just luck sometimes.
And when you look back at the legacy of Creation, do you sometimes think, wow, it actually had depth, didn't it? It wasn't just 2 or 3 big bands. There's a lot of bands, mid-sized bands.
Well, I'm going to do, John. I'm going to do a 7-inch record label, because I've got, like, I manage a lot of bands over 35, whatever you want to call that. And I was a month ago, I was like, you know what, I need to put out some new bands, and so I'm going to do a 7-inch label. Do you know what I mean? Just because I think for my own fucking sanity. Do you know what I mean?
This is actually you, though.
No, I'm not going to be in the records. I'm just going to put them out. You know what I mean?
you're still the guy who puts on the little gig. You still do that, don't you? You still put a little show
Well,
down there.
I do. I mean, I bought a chapel because I got phone hacked by Rupert Murdoch, and I bought a chapel, and I put on bands in it 4 years. But I'm not back. I'm nearly in London the whole time now, man, because we're so busy with all the different bands because we manage all the bands. But yeah, I wanted to do new bands, and I think I'm going to call it Creation 23 because why not? Really, I'm at that point. Grow old disgracefully. Do you know what I mean? You know.
Well, with the older acts, I mean, it's quite interesting what you do because the Mary Chain have been around for a bit.
Yeah.
They reformed before, but when you were working with them, they seem like a brand new thing again.
Yeah. I mean,
the same the Mondays. You seem to install. I don't know how you do it, but do you install some kind of work ethic into these bands? Yeah,
I mean, with them, it was kind of like just make them remember who they are. And,
do you have a team talk then? Do you sort of sit down?
I just kind of get them to play the first album usually, you know what I mean? And they sort of remember who they are. And we did it with the Mondays, and we did Pills and Thrills, and by the end of the tour, there was like a mentality that. We used to play arenas, and it's been good ever since then, you know.
I mean, the Mondays.
And I'm doing it with Las Vegas now. I'm going up tomorrow to Newcastle, and I just took on Las Vegas, and I've got them to go back to the first album, but it's 10 years ago in October. So we're going to start the whole campaign now. Because when I picked them up again, they only done a gig for 4 years. So.
Yeah, I saw they were coming back.
Yeah.
I should have guessed you.
Well, they just. I think they lost their way. Do you know what I mean? You know.
Because it's amazing when I look at Sean Ryder in the last few years. It's amazing how totally sorted out he is now. He's got two great bands on the go.
Yeah, he's a great place. Yeah.
And he's really happy in life and that.
Yeah. No, Sean's he's healthy as well.
Yeah.
You know. It's frightening.
This is your magic touch. This is what you do to these people.
He got off everything. It's all good.
And they work hard, these bands.
Yeah. No, it's good, man. It's good.
It's okay. I think we've unfortunately run out of time, so it's a weird place to cut off. But we could do this for hours, couldn't we?
No, we do this for hours. Every 3 months, it's like me and him do this for hours. You know.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot to Alan McGee.
Okay. Yeah.